Sally that girl in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally that girl in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make pumpkin-filled phyllo triangles, Filas de Calabaza. They're absolutely delicious with their flaky exterior and that creamy, sweet filling. They're perfect for any time of the year, but they are even more perfect to be served for Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because on the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, we say a prayer over pumpkin. So what better than to be able to give each person at the table their own little pumpkin triangle so that they could say the prayer with. It's very traditional in my Sephardic Turkish family to serve it this way, and it's super yummy, it's super delicious, and as I said, it is a delicious appetizer or side that you can make all year round because that flaky phyllo is really special, and when you fill it with this delicious pumpkin filling, it's even better. It brings it all over the top. So I'm really excited to teach you how to make these. So let's not wait another second and let's get started. For today's recipe, you will need 4.5 pounds of pumpkin. I am using what is known around here as squash calabaza. Now keep in mind that the weight I am listing includes both the peel and the seeds. You'll also need 1.5 teaspoons of salt plus another 1/2 teaspoon separate, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, 1/2 cup of light brown sugar, 8 tablespoons of unsalted parve margarine, 1 box of phyllo sheets, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and 1 extra large egg. You will also need a couple of large baking trays or jelly roll pans, a large cutting board, a large bowl, a wet measuring cup, a teaspoon, a potato masher, a large knife and a cutting board, a bowl and a fork, and some measuring spoons. You will also need at least 1 freshly washed kitchen towel, and you will need some dry measuring cups, a strainer, and a pastry brush. And finally, you will need a large pot with a lid. Please keep in mind that if you're using frozen phyllo sheets for this recipe, you will have to have them thawed in order to be ready to make this recipe, so follow your package's instructions. In my case, I took my box of phyllo and took it out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator the night before I was ready to make this recipe. And then right now, as I'm about to get started, I just pulled the box right out of the refrigerator and placed it on my counter to come to room temperature. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is fill your large pot with water from the sink, put a lid on it, and then turn your stove on to high as we want the water to start to boil. So let me show you the type of pumpkin that I am using. I am using what is known as squash calabaza, and it has a green and yellowish, really thick skin. And then I just bought a couple of pieces because I really like to get a look at the inside, which is why I love to buy it cut, because you can see that the pieces are nice and bright orange, and that's how I love it. So all you're going to want to do is peel off the plastic from your calabaza, and you want to remove all the seeds and that flesh in the center. And of course, you want to remove the hard peel, and then you just want to chop your calabaza into some small pieces or cubes. It's just going to make it easier to boil it that way. And then at this point, our water is nice and hot. It's come to a boil. So all you're going to want to do is very carefully bring over that tray with your chopped calabaza, and you're going to add it to your pot of boiling water. You'll notice that I use my cutting board as protection from the splashes as I gently add the calabaza in, because by placing the cutting board on top of my pot and just kind of pushing those pieces of calabaza in, I'm protecting myself from any splashes that may occur as they drop into the very hot water. So now I'm going to add just a touch of salt. I'm using about 1.5 teaspoons, and then I'm going to give my calabaza a little stir. And then what I want to do is I'm going to put my lid back on, and then I'm going to bring the heat to about medium because I do want it to come back to a boil. So now I'm going to set a 15-minute timer for the calabaza to cook, and I tip my lid just a touch off of my pot to let the steam escape. And after 15 minutes, I turn off my heat, and my calabaza is beautiful and ready. It is softened, it's got the perfect texture, and now all we need to do is drain it. So I let it sit for a moment because the water is very hot, and then with the help of some oven mitts, I take it over to my sink where I have my strainer, and I just pour out all of the water because what I want to do is eliminate all of that liquid. So I just take my strainer and I give it a really good shake to make sure that all of that liquid has been removed. Now look at how beautiful this calabaza is looking already. It's really so delicious. I love this, especially in red beans. It is absolutely remarkable. So now we're going to move on to add our chopped and boiled calabaza into our large bowl. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our stick of margarine right on top of the calabaza because the heat from the calabaza will help melt it. And then we're going to add just about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to add our brown sugar. So since I measured it into a cup, it kind of clumps up. So I'm just going to break it up over the calabaza. And then I'm just going to add a touch of cinnamon to this mixture because really the pumpkin together with the brown sugar and cinnamon is very special. And then you're just going to use your potato masher and you're going to go in and you're going to mash it all up. And you'll see that since the calabaza is still nice and hot, that margarine just breaks up really quickly and it just melts and becomes absolutely delicious and creamy, and it just incorporates right in to the delicious pumpkin. Now I'm using margarine because I'm trying to keep this non-dairy, but of course if you're not concerned about dairy, then you can use butter too. That's fine. So at this point, I always recommend you taste your filling because you could always add a little more of anything you feel it needs. If you like it more sweet, you add a little more sugar. If you like a little more cinnamon, then you add a pinch more. I think it's perfect, but that's really up to you. So now our filling is ready and we're going to set up our working station for our phyllo triangles. The first thing you want to do is measure out your oil, and then you want to add it to a bowl because we're going to use our pastry brush and we are going to be brushing this oil onto our phyllo dough as we work. So I normally like to work directly on my counter, but I brought over a large cutting board because I will be cutting the dough right on the board, and I don't like to do that directly on my counter. So there are 2 rolls in this box. I'm going to be using one for this demonstration, so I'm just going to take the other one and pop it into the refrigerator so that I can use it later. Maybe I'll make some potato and cheese bulemas or something yummy. So now I'm going to turn on my oven to 350 degrees to allow it to preheat, making sure I have a rack in the center. And I'm going to open my pack of dough, and then you'll notice that it comes on a plastic. So what I do is I gently open it up right on top of that plastic, and then just open the sheets up because normally they're a bit folded. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of my sheets. So I removed 2 from the pack and I placed them right on my cutting board. And then the rest of the sheets I laid out right on top of the plastic they come with. But then I cut a piece of plastic wrap to lay it on top of those sheets because I want to protect them and keep them from drying out while I work. And then I took my clean kitchen towel and then I placed it under the running water of my faucet, and then I squeezed out the excess water because what I want is a moist towel to put on top of that plastic to protect my dough. So I have 2 sheets laid one on top of the other, and then I used my knife to cut those sheets into 3 strips. And then very gently, I'm just using the tip of my pastry brush and I'm dipping it into my oil, and then I'm just brushing my sheets with that oil. So it's okay to just do that top sheet, and then you're gonna grab your teaspoon and you're going to get a touch of that delicious pumpkin filling. And then what I like to do is I kind of fold up the bottom edge to give me something to hold on to, something to work with as I'm folding. And then I'm gonna do what's known as the flag fold. I'm just gonna fold over to form a triangle, and then you fold it again, and then you repeat the process over and you'll notice what we're doing is we're forming a little triangular pocket. But what's going to happen is if there is an excess piece, then you just grab your knife and you're going to cut it right off of the edge. And then if you notice that your dough seems a little bit dry, the first couple of sheets are always a little bit dry because they're the ones right on top of the package, then just use your brush or your fingers and then just give it a little bit of coating of oil, and then it is ready to be placed onto that tray that I have prepared with a sheet of parchment paper. Now I'm going to show you that one more time. We're going to take our strip, we're going to use our pastry brush, and we're going to brush it with oil. I'm using a neutral vegetable oil, but of course if you were making these dairy and you were using real butter instead of margarine in your mix, then you can use butter for these, and they are really spectacular too. It gives it an amazing flavor. So once you've brushed your double strip, then use your teaspoon. Once again, you add your touch of calabaza. You're going to fold up the end. It just makes it easier to do the flag fold when you do so. And then you start folding in the shape of a triangle. You fold once, then you bring it over again, and then you're just going to repeat the process over and over until you get to the top of the strip. And then, just as I did before, if there is a little piece left over, then you trim it. But if there isn't, then it's good to go. You just give it a little brush with the oil. Now, the oil really helps give it a golden color. Sometimes you see these triangles and they look dry and brittle, and that is not what you want at all with these filas de calabaza. You want them to just look golden and beautiful, and you will notice that brushing your strips this way is going to keep them beautiful and golden and flaky as they bake. So I'm doing my third strip, and all I'm doing is the same process, filling in with a little bit of my filling of calabaza. I'm folding up, and then I'm doing my flag fold. Once I reach the top of my strip of dough, I'm gonna cut off any excess because we don't want that little piece just hanging over. And then if it's got enough oil, great. If not, then we just add a little touch of oil with either our hands or our pastry brush. So then every time we go to make another 3 triangles, we're going to do the same process. We're going to remove 2 sheets from the pack, but then we're always going to remember to go back and cover them with plastic. Make sure the plastic covers all of the dough because we don't want the towel coming into direct contact with the dough. And then we're going to repeat the process over and over. So this time I'm going to show you how to cut the strips. You see how I just used a sharp knife and right over a cutting board. It was very simple. I'm cutting 2 strips of dough at a time. There's one right on top of the other. I'm focusing on oiling the top strip. I am adding my filling to my strips. I'm going to fold the bottoms up, and then I'm going to do a flag fold, and I'm just going to fold my phyllo triangles up until I reach the top of each of my strips, focusing on adding some oil wherever I feel they are a bit dry, and then I'm just going to add them each onto that parchment paper on my tray. Now, I'm going to finish these 3, and then I'm going to show you how to do a larger triangle if you prefer your phyllo triangles a bit larger. So here we go. This is the second of the 3, and then here we go with the third. See how very quick and easy it is? Once you get the hang of it, I just do 3 strips at once, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. It's super quick and easy, and you can make a bunch of these, and it doesn't take that much time at all. So now I'm going to show you how to make the larger triangle. The concept is exactly the same. You're going to grab 2 sheets of your dough very carefully, place them on your cutting board, cover with plastic, add your kitchen towel right on top of that to make sure that your dough is protected. And then we're going to cut into 2 instead of cutting into 3. It's as simple as that. We're still using a double sheet, so 2 sheets of dough, one on top of the other, but this time we're just going to cut them right down the middle, and we're going to make 2 strips that are wider instead of 3 that are more narrow. And then you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to brush them with your oil, and then the good thing about the larger ones is that you get to use a little more filling, of course, because they are a bit bigger. So they'll definitely hold more filling than the smaller ones will. And because the dough is wider, I don't find the need to fold up the end. When I start my folding process, I just go directly into my flag fold, into my triangular fold. And then the concept is the same. I just fold until I've used all of the dough, and then if I have anything that is of excess, then I just trim it with my knife to make a nice triangle, and then we are good to go. See, that one's just a bit larger than when you make 3 instead of 2. So then I'm going to go ahead and make my other large one, since of course I've already got this strip cut for a large triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and make it, and then I'm just going to continue to make my triangles until I fill my tray. So if you're making them small and you're getting 3 triangles out of every double sheet of phyllo, then you should fit about 12 triangles on a large sized tray. So now I filled up my first tray, and of course I have 11 because I made 2 of them in the larger size. But if you're continuing that pattern of 3 each time, then of course you would have 12. And then once you filled up that first tray, then you're just going to beat up your egg, and then you're going to use a clean pastry brush, and you're going to give each of your beautiful Filas de Calabaza a nice brushing of this beaten egg. I used the whole egg and I didn't add any water to it. I'm just using the egg as is, and then I'm just making sure to cover all of my pastry really nicely because it's really going to help give it a beautiful golden color. So now once they've all gotten a beautiful coating of that beaten egg, you're going to place your tray in the oven on a center rack, and you're going to set a 20-minute timer to allow your Filas de Calabaza to cook. And then of course in the meantime I'm going to continue making more because 1 tray is never enough. So I'm going to continue to shape some more, and I'm going to be making 2 trays. But with this recipe you could actually get 33 phyllo triangles if you were using just one of the rolls of your box. And then of course you could get 66 if you decided to use both rolls of your phyllo dough. Of course, I'm referring to the smaller size. So now 20 minutes have passed since I put my first tray in to bake, and now they are ready and golden and flaky and delicious. Look at that amazing color that they developed in the oven. And you see that beautiful sheen, that bit of a shine that they have to them? That is from brushing them with the egg. It really makes a huge difference. So I wasted no time whatsoever, and now my second tray of 12 is ready, and I'm going to give them that beautiful coating of egg because I saw just how beautiful they turn out because I give them the extra love by adding a bit of egg on top. So I've made 24, but I'm going to show you that I have plenty of filling in my bowl, so I could definitely continue to make a bunch more because this filling will definitely make at least 33, and probably you could crack into that second roll of phyllo dough and make some more because there's plenty of filling still left. So all you want to do is repeat the process you had done earlier. Once you have another full tray ready, then what you're going to do is just place it on a center rack in the oven, set another 20-minute timer, and allow them to bake. And just repeat that over and over to make as many as you'd like. Now look at how beautiful these guys look. They smell Amazing. They are so tasty and they're really very different. I mean, a pumpkin triangle, not a very common dish, but really absolutely divine, and it will impress anyone you serve it to. Look at that beautiful color they have, and they're flaky and golden and absolutely delicious. And once they cool, you can leave them right on the tray to cool. No need for a cooling rack. And then you can just place them on a tray where you're going to serve them. And they look absolutely beautiful. Doesn't that look appetizing? That would look amazing if you're having a brunch or a buffet, having a couple of people over for some wine and cheese, just something a little special and different. And of course, as I said, they're amazing for Rosh Hashanah because you can use them for the prayer on the pumpkin and everyone gets to have one, and it's just the perfect bite. So, enough admiring. It's time for me to try one because literally I am salivating. But I want to show you the difference in size. So that is one of the smaller ones. And then I'm going to compare it to the larger one so that you see the difference. So side by side, you can see that that is the larger one with half the sheet. And this is the one that is a third of the sheet. So I actually like these because they're a little more bite size, but whatever size you go with is fine. Wow. What is not going to change is the flavor. It is going to be amazing. Look at that pumpkin filling running throughout and just that flaky and golden crust. It is delicious and creamy, and it's somewhere between sweet and savory. It's just the perfect bite. Look at that beautiful filling and that flaky crust with all those beautiful layers of dough. It's absolutely perfect. So good. You're gonna love it. So how amazing do these look? I just love how beautiful and golden they get. And I just love a little handheld bite. It's so much fun. And as I said earlier, it's great even to serve as an appetizer or just as a little side, or if you're doing a beautiful brunch, because it's something different and unexpected. And it's just that little perfect bite that everyone is gonna love. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're gonna have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And of course, remember to subscribe to my channel and to touch the little notification bell so that you don't miss out on so many amazing recipes that I'm still planning for you. And of course, travel over to my video tab because there's already so many recipes there. I don't want you to miss out on those. And if you're not already following me on social media, make sure to follow Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can follow me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. See you next time. Sally That Girl in the Kitchen.